Hey everybody, welcome to Field of Dreams on ACTN. I'm Steve David and I'm your host. Today we want to talk about the saga, FIFA versus TTFA, continuing that in that mode. And there's so much going on, viewers, that we are all confused as well. So we can try to break it down as best as we can so you can get an idea on what's going on. Let me take time to introduce the panel. Next to me is Narada Wilson. Welcome to the set, Narada.
Yes, Steve, always a pleasure to be here on a topic that probably might keep going on and on for a while, but you see how best we could dissect it and probably offer some solutions.
And next to Narada is Larry Joseph. Welcome to the set, Larry.
Thanks again, Steve.
And next to Larry is Jefferson George. Welcome to the set, Jefferson.
Thank you, Steve. Always a pleasure to be here.
You guys ready for this?
No.
You know what?
You better be.
Change the format of this thing. It's going to be barbershop discussion, but let me say, lay the platform for us to talk about, because I want us to look at this holistic, and I want our viewers as well to look at this whole thing holistic. We might not end up talking about that because there's more issues or more important stuff that we need to talk about. But, you know, I am thinking about this thing like it's not just FIFA versus TTFA, it's a little bit more than that. So I'm going to take you back to the days, slavery days, when this, and slavery was supposed to be abolished in, what, 1863 or something?
Yeah,
1864?
it was
1838.
1830
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think they want to bring us back to that mental state, because I remember playing ball in the U.S. and the slave master mentality was always there. Mm-hmm. And I remember my buddy Warren Arch was saying, hey, you know, you have to be the best on the team to play, because if you as good as one of the other players, which obviously was white, then you would be on the bench. So it talks about, you know, and on all that kind of stuff. And I'm looking at this from that standpoint, like they want to keep us in that dark ages. And that's, to me, FIFA wants to keep us in that dark ages. And the people that they always pick on really is the African countries, the countries with people who look like you and I. So I'm looking at this from holistically. It's better we damage one generation and save 20 or 30 generations down the road than to throw ourselves to the mercy of FIFA and damage all of that going on. Because FIFA, they say FIFA constitution rules everything. But FIFA constitution is only good for FIFA. It's not good for nobody else. They have all the power. FIFA is not God. And why does FIFA have all the power and we can't say nothing, and we can't even open our mouth? We are like, shut up and do what you're told. And that has to stop. So that's why I am in so much support. I am in support of this casualty in war. So if we lose a generation and gain 20 generations down the road, I think we're on the right track. So that's why now I'm hearing all the stuff that's going on. It's like my people, meaning Trinidad and Tobago football supporters or businessmen or whoever support this, should jump on the bandwagon and to defend us and our constitution against FIFA and say, hey, you can't come and do this, man. We have a constitution, we are people too, we're not back in the day, we need to move forward. And there's so much more to this story about FIFA. So I'm going to give you one more that I heard. And I don't know you guys heard it as well, but I heard, and again, I can confirm this, but the way Jack got into FIFA, you guys ever heard that story?
We're waiting for you to say it.
All right. I heard the way he got in, but this is supposed to be a joke, so don't take me seriously, but this is what. He was traveling, he was a member of the FIFA congregation, whatever, and he was traveling with them, and they were talking in their language, Italian or whatever they are. I don't know what these people are. And he, Jack can talk like 6 or 7 different languages. So he was listening to them talk, and when they were saying everything they had to say, they thought he didn't know what they said, and then they asked him something in English, and he responded to them in the language they were speaking. That's what I heard. So now they say, you know what, we need to bring you in and keep you here because you're smarter than us. So, and I say all that to say, I am disappointed with my football community for not standing up to the United administration, the Wallace administration, when FIFA didn't give them a chance. They didn't pay nobody. They didn't give them no money to spend. It's like, we ain't giving you nothing. Just like when slavery was abolished and they freed the slaves. Mm-hmm. But they didn't give them land or nothing to start with. Yeah. They just free them. Yeah. And says, all right, go out and everybody else, all the Europeans, all the whites, they give land and stuff as a start. So FIFA is doing us the same thing. They didn't give us a start. They give us no money, not us, but the Wallace administration. And then they just come in and they put the axe on them. Yeah. So I need you guys to do whatever you want. Talk about that, or do whatever you want and support whatever you want to support. That, which I always like to hear different sides of every story, but I want us to trash it out. And why are we not supporting our administration that was duly elected? And just say, FIFA, you can't do this. And then we have that kind of support. And then FIFA might say, hey, might back up. Maybe I need to look at this. But I think FIFA is putting our people to fight their battle against our duly elected administration. What do you guys think?
I think, you see, the issue, well, one of the biggest issues in all of this is that football, at the end of the day, as we say, FIFA is the governing body, but football belongs to the people, and I think that is something a lot of us don't understand or don't remember or pretend to not remember, because of the fact that the dollars and cents behind the football comes from the organization based in Switzerland, at least for the administrative part of it. So from that particular reason, I think we have put ourselves on the back burner because we've simply not come together and supported football to the point where we could seem to envision football without FIFA. The majority of persons that speak, whether from the stakeholder standpoint or just the supporters, think without FIFA, football does not continue. And it's going to stop. They don't maybe remember years ago when companies and corporate entities were putting a lot of money into football so that if we weren't getting it from outside, we still would have had some resemblance of the game. A lot of us support it, but we don't invest in it. And that is what is scaring a lot of people and making us seem to think that FIFA is the only way out. And FIFA has used that in many third world countries and many, smaller nations because they've taken what is a huge game to the population, benefited from it financially, they govern it, and then they disperse a certain amount. But if we were to go down into the nitty-gritty, we may actually realize that the amount that they send for any of the nations is probably nothing in terms of how much money is actually in FIFA that could be distributed if it was to be distributed evenly. And that alone is the first start as to why you would always hear people in the corner probably supporting the Wallace administration, but then going out publicly to do so, they won't, because it's still seen as the bigger horse or dog is talking right now. Another issue that we have is for our leaders, and this is my personal plight to them, is that this is a time to lead. If it is, everything is taken away. It shows how, how much of a visionary you actually are. You're getting, if it goes to the negative side of it, you're getting an empty field to start over everything. And if it goes to the positive, well then, you continue the race, or at least some changes have to be made. But I think a lot of people are not voicing their opinion honestly, because FIFA is still the, that sort of high point you would like to reach in any leadership in football. You want to be on good terms with them. You want to see what benefits you could get out of it. So I think a lot of them are not being honest in terms of what their opinions in the matter is. Because all of us, I think the majority would say that, yes, FIFA has control, they are the governing body. Yes, there may be things that the United TTFA, whether, what came out after you could disagree with, there were things that were positive. But no, I think it would be very unfair for someone to say that it was the right timing and the manner in which FIFA went about their, shuffle or decision. It was wrong. I think in any organization, private, within a family, if anyone was to do something that way, we would be up in arms about it. But because of who it is did it, a lot of us are being reserved in our comments on it.
Jeff, we miss you, man.
I like the platform that you set, Steve. That has been my view on it from day one, right? I have publicly, put ideas to that same effect after my contract expired, of course.
Smart move.
And that makes sense. For me, I have not heard or seen anybody say what FIFA did was right. What I am seeing a lot of is people conceding to the fact that FIFA will ban me if we do so and so and so. You understand what I'm saying? And for me, I think that is where, that is what FIFA is banking on. Because at the end of the day, if we, as you suggested, are not united, that is the only opportunity that an outside entity, and I'm saying outside for the sake of this discussion, being FIFA, come in to impose its will, right, which is unjust, as people are accepting the fact, they shouldn't do that, but we have to accept it because it's FIFA. So you are saying automatically that FIFA is allowed to operate in an unfair and an unjust manner because of who they are. So obviously they are operating outside the realm of goodwill and all type of fair play which they speak about, right? And that is something that in my mind I've been always thinking about. It is amazing to see that in this period of time, and not just concerning the football, you can actually, I always ask myself, why did slavery as an institution last so long? And it's because of this. You have people who are willing to go along with something that is unjust because at the end of the day, they think it's something that is too expensive to fight for, right? I am thankful to God that my forefathers did see it as something worthy to fight for us to be equal human beings with other people, and I would not accept in any form, shape or fashion somebody coming to impose their will upon me if that will is unjust, right? Everybody is talking about FIFA laws and this and that and the other. Laws are changed because they're unfair. They're slanted in one way or the other, and that cannot be, right? You have, at this present moment, the Irish Federation, right? The Irish Federation is in 55 million euros debt. FIFA isn't there. FIFA hasn't imposed a nomination committee there. So why? Why Trinidad? And that comes back to the same point that we're making. You're doing that because you think you could in a place that you don't see as being equal with the other members of FIFA. That is unfair, is unjust, and I will stand up against it every day of the week.
Oh, it's very passionate. I agree with you, Steve, in terms of the bucket. If we look at it through the lenses of black and white, literally speaking, the black race have always been held as inferior to the white race in all aspects. I've never heard of massive white enslavement in any part of the world. It's always been black being enslaved, and even after slavery was abolished physically, not mentally, you still have so many institutions that the black people have to live in that are still basically by principles have slavery rules. And if we come back to the topic at hand here with FIFA and TTFA, Trinidad and Tobago is predominantly considered a black nation, right? So, and FIFA is predominantly European, even though they may have one or two in this particular regime here under Infantino. You have some African people who hold some positions. But if you check into their checkered history, even those people who are there black in color, they seem to lean very, very strongly on the side of the European side of things. And obviously it's for personal gain. Obviously it's for personal gain. And I think personal gain, coming back to our local game, is where the rubber meets the road. I think for a lot of us here who are opposed to the action taken by the United TTFA to taking FIFA to court is because of what they have to lose on a personal level. And as you mentioned, Steve, in all wars there are casualties. But if we are to look at what the benefits to be derived if we win this war in the medium and long term, it is worth the loss or some loss. Let me give you an example of what I mean. If any country goes to war, before they go to war, you know, they sit down and count what the cost is going to be to them. Mm-hmm. And anytime the cost to them is justified in going forward, they get involved in war. It's not an easy decision to make, you know. That's what we have to understand. You're going to suffer loss. It's a Bible principle. The Bible says if I want to follow Christ, I have to check what it will cost me to follow Christ. The Bible mentions if any man deciding to build a tower doesn't first stop and check what it will cost me to build this tower, lest I start to build it and run out of material and I leave it halfway and people come and laugh at me. Now the principle in that Bible story is applicable to this case here, you know. You understand? Mm-hmm. Wallace and them counting the cost. The other people and them deciding, we have looked at building the building, we don't have enough material. So we are going to lean on the hardware that have all the material. The hardware is FIFA. Mm-hmm. But it really does come down to a certain amount of self-pride in terms of what our history as black people really is and what it represents. Black people history in the western side of the world is based on struggle. And for all the lives that have been lost in that struggle for all of black people to have what they have now, we have to remember that a lot of lives were lost to gain that. Not invented, nothing gained. And, you know, if we keep it within that context, we have to be able to have some sense of pride that says, nah, enough is enough. You know, I'm willing to pay the price even if I lose in my time, so that some generation that I may not even be alive to see will benefit from the fact that I stood up 100 years ago or whatever, you know.
I'll take a break now, Larry. When I'll come back with you to finish your point. Viewers will be right back after the short break.
people talk about the suspension, all right? Our clubs have not played in club championship for the last 4 years. This is going to be 4 years. And we have not been, we weren't suspended.
We, from those encounters together, and this was a North-South game to open the season.
So the team might be playing well, as we always say with Trinidad and Tobago.
Futsal did that great for me.
Okay, hey everybody. Welcome to another edition of Field of Dreams on ACTN. My name is Steve David. I'm your host. Okay, welcome back, viewers. Larry, you were saying,
Yeah,
because we have a serious discussion going on.
Right, yeah.
So let's,
and, whenever the discussion ventures into the area of race in terms of, it's always a touchy one and with some passion involved, and rightly so, because it is who we are, right? To just zero back into our matters at hand here, so I don't be talking all the time. I believe if people look at it in terms of how we're discussing it here, that wait now, why it is that we as a black nation seem to be always depending on basically European people to fund us, because that's the issue here in Trinidad football. FIFA is funding local football, and so we are beholden to them. And because you have some entities who stand to gain on a personal level, if the status quo is continued, nobody wants to upset that apple cart. But if we could see outside ourselves, our selfish gains, and realize that, listen, why it is we are so dependent? Narada made a very good point. If we had sufficient corporate sponsorship into our local football, where we were not dependent on FIFA for that massive amount of funding that we are dependent. In fact, we depend on FIFA 100% for everything. FIFA's hold and control over Trinidad and Tobago's football would be slackened, obviously, right? But it's to the benefit of a lot of people that the status quo is maintained. Depend wholly and solely on FIFA, so that if I hog up FIFA, I go benefit selfishly. Basically, that was it.
So we should be trying to get, which I think, instead of us I heard the whole nation is coming down on walls and they all give in. We should be supporting them and let FIFA give in. This is ours. And even our corporate sponsors should come on board now and say, look, we support our local football, and because jump high, jump low. If we get banned or not, we still have to continue playing football here. Whether it's going to be a minor league or whatever league, and the people who FIFA bring here, then that group, they ain't even touching it. They say, let me stand back and wait and watch what happened between FIFA and TTFA. All of this is getting crazy to me. And knowing the whole history of slavery and everything else, I'm like, wait a minute. This is like slavery, and this has to stop. And I am asking the public themselves to take a step back and look at what is really happening, and why don't we support our United TTFA and says you can't do this, FIFA. And if we had done that, I feel we could have changed something or will change something down the road. And I am good if we can change something down the road, if we can do that.
I think, Steve, one of the major issues in all of this is it actually is supposed to be in sport. It's not supposed to be a matter that is taken to court, because at court, in any judicial hearing, it's a win-lose situation. And sport is always supposed to be a win-win situation. So mediation is always the answer.
Right.
I think where the public, in knowing this and in understanding this, the public and all the stakeholders what we should have even been more boisterous about is wanting to know why FIFA or the TTFA in the initial stages were not compromising and saying, let's sit down. Then we found out after some weeks, that the TTFA did extend the olive branch by telling FIFA, hey, let's sit down, bring someone, let's work together. I think the issue now arises as to when that olive branch was extended, why didn't FIFA concede? Why didn't they give in to that? Because I don't, that is where you now see where the power, they wanted to prove a particular point. Because in no way, form, or fashion, I think we should view FIFA saying, okay, cool, we'll send a team or we'll come sit down or you guys come up, let's sit down and talk about this, as them losing some sort of war with Trinidad and Tobago. That should never be the case, because at the end of the day, just as you said, the football continues. So, taking the Wallace administration out, putting in the normalization committee, it's still about football continuing. So I don't understand why, who wins in the battle determines as though that is the only way football could go forward if this particular entity wins. And I think from that point, then we saw something different. Because I think had it been any other major nation, I'm sure, had it been a world issue with, let's use England or the US or someone, I don't think FIFA would have said, listen to me or else you're banned. I think they may have said, okay, they have some big wigs there. Let's hear what they have to say, persons that are competent. I think from some point, they did not view the persons who were on the team, Wallace team, or the persons who were willing to offer services. I think they didn't see them as being equal or understanding how to deal with football for Trinidad and Tobago, one of their members. But again, you have a membership of 211 persons today. You are supposed to be ensuring that 211 persons are satisfied, because that is what gives you this image that you are a great organization that is controlling, the majority of football. And they just didn't go for that look at all.
Maybe because they believe that this tiny little country named Trinidad and Tobago can have a major impact in any decision making as far as FIFA is concerned. Because we are FIFA and you are who again? Yeah. Maybe that's the reason why.
And it always boils down to the small countries and the small African countries. And well, Larry, you 1%, man. So you have.
So I is part of the normalization committee.
You could be part of the normalization.
I running all your football.
But I'm like, you ain't going to England, you ain't going to Argentina, you ain't going to these places to talk that nonsense. You come to Trinidad or some little African country who is begging. I ain't begging. And I played football with that attitude, because when Archie sit me down and says, and open my eyes to some of the stuff that's going on, and I could see it. I seen some players from other parts of the world who can't even tie your boots lace, right? And they're professionals? No. I'm like, no, this is not right, because I could pick 5 people in my little small country who's better than them. But they're playing. And then he says, and this is how the life is. And the life can't be like that. So I just said, you know what? And when I played against some of these players, I'm arrogant, because you're not supposed to be in the same field with me. And so on and so on. And I always strive to be the best on the team or the highest paid. And if you don't want to pay me, then I go somewhere else. But, give me what I'm worth. Because I am a life, I am something here that you need, and if you can't stand up that, then I go. I go and apply my trade somewhere else. So give me what I'm worth. And I never look at myself as a black human being. I look at or a black person, I look at myself as a person. Don't judge me because I am a minority or this. Judge me as a person. And I will live up to that. And don't play me because we want 2 minorities on the field Don't play me for that. Play me if I deserve playing. Same has to apply for all these different scenarios. So I am saying this to the people who I know who jumped on the FIFA bandwagon and say, we got to stop. No, we don't have to stop, man. We have to support what's right. FIFA Constitution, if you have the Constitution, make it apply for every single country. But if we have our Constitution we got to live by, you have to support that too.
You're correct, Steve, because that is one of the things that I like about sports. All right, sports, it takes away that possibility, at least on the field,
Right.
to have a differentiation between color, between class, and these type of differences that men make up. All right, God created one race; it's a human race, and that's why I don't buy into the idea of you versus me. Right? We have different ethnicities, we come from different places, we have different cultural background and that type of stuff. And that makes or creates a particular ideology in a person. But when it comes to race, there is the human race, right? And in that, sports provide an opportunity that on my merit, I'm going to play, right? You're in track, and the fastest time is the person who wins, all right? Regardless of who that person might be, right? What skin they're in, and what part of the world they came from. And that is what we are not seeing played out here. The points that you're making about where FIFA would go and do these things, I mean, it's a discussion that gets a little bit uncomfortable because people don't like to talk about it, right? But if I'm seeing a reality and that is what is playing out before our eyes all the time, don't ask me to not see that or not talk about that, because that is what it is, right? And I made the point about the Irish as well, and they've been in this case for the longest while, just as us, right? Now, the other point that you made, yes, there are things that we have to do. There are things that we are going to have to do whether we are suspended or not. And those are the things for me that as a people we should be focused on, right? There's obviously a current crisis now that is in front of our eyes, and most of the times that's the way that we normally triggered. Something comes up and we go with that. But Trinidad and Tobago football has been in constant decline for the longest while.
Yeah.
We have not been, people talk about the suspension, all right? Our clubs have not played in club championships for the last 4 years. This is going to be 4 years. And we have not been, we weren't suspended.
Yeah.
No, where were the outcry? Where was the people who saying FIFA should do this and do that? FIFA doesn't care about our country, and that shows, because our football on the field has been sliding. FIFA was doing what FIFA does, but when it comes to perceived challenging the authority, obviously they show up, right? To do what? And you're not coming to fix it, right? So if anybody who believes that FIFA is coming to fix something, no. They're coming to fix that relationship to make sure you in check, right? And I continue to operate how I operate. That we must not accept.
And the Pro League who is jumping on FIFA bandwagon is obviously a bunch of people who trying to get in the good side. I don't know what they're trying to do anyway. Let me don't even go there. But this suspension thing has nothing to do with the Pro League. The Pro League should be going on. It's not going on. Everybody's sitting back and watching football, and football don't play. Every part of the world is still playing football now. Yeah. Our Pro League never had spectators anyway. So put it on TV if you want to get the 5 spectators you usually have, but play football. But they're not doing that, and they're sitting down and they're sending out memos, and you want me to support that, which apparently they're crazy, because I'm not supporting that. Go and play football, and I will support you. But they didn't do that. So I'm thinking, I'm looking back and looking at all these little backstabbers who just trying to gain something and trying to support that and trying to convince the rest of the nation on this.
Yeah.
I cannot say
No,
how
because
much that.
You're correct, because the reason we are not playing or engaged in any football at this moment in Trinidad and Tobago, it's because of the public health crisis that we have, and we have guidelines that we must adhere to. Before those guidelines were put in place, the Ascension League was about to start. We had several teams training and things like that, and those things would not stop because of a FIFA suspension or not. Those things would continue as normal.
Right.
There are people who want to gin up fears in people that you can't do this. The only thing that we will not be able to do is our national teams will not be able to play against other national teams in FIFA competitions.
Correct.
Our club teams will not be able to play in any FIFA-affiliated competition, which we have not done for 4 years.
Right.
Nothing has changed. And that's my thing. When we talk about us now becoming united, and if we are not united at any other time, I think this here is a reason or a time where we should be united at this point in time to fix football, to fix the ills that were there all the time that caused this in the first place. Right? And if we aren't prepared to do that, then we might as well invite FIFA to come and stay here, because then we're not willing to do what it takes to get football right back where it needs to be.
So are we the victims of having a FIFA representative for so many years that we actually delayed the inevitable gangrene setting in because we had a FIFA medicine to plaster this off all these years?
I think to dwell on that point quickly would be, there was a comfort zone in having someone for close to 20 years, over 20 years, that was in a position to afford us certain luxuries or, just put the spotlight on us. So what happened is a lot of persons relaxed on their laurels because it could be done by one man, and kudos to him in his position at the time. But from the time he's not there, then we get to see the real wound on us not being, visionaries enough to realize what could be done. And I'll say this quickly, just as Jeff touched on. Yes, some things would be taken away from us, but we've not been, those gifts were there on the table for years and we've not been participating in it. There are a lot of countries that when there's a tournament, whether it be a FIFA or just a private tournament, you can't be invited as an outside nation. It's a deal that if you are a good enough leader, you could make some negotiations and just be an invited participant, and they will be accepting to that. The development funds that FIFA would send for little kid camps and stuff, they may have been 2 per year. You can't just run with 2 camps per year and expect your kids to be developed. So it still means that the other 20 camps that we should be having in the country fell on us, and we were still not doing it. So we would just rather rely on just having the 2 camps and not try to figure out how we could have the other 18 camps happening throughout the year that FIFA is not going to fund, that we should have been taking up the mantle and going around the communities. In terms of, just as you all said, the professional, semi-professional league football, those things could happen, just as many other leagues across the world may not have a necessary sanctioning, but it still takes place. And our players, that go on scholarship to universities would still be able to go. Guys that are on contracts could still get contracts. The one limitation I may see is, yes, being an agent and representing players, is my negotiation may change because now I can't say he's a starting member of a team that is ranked XYZ and has this amount of percentage. But those guys that are already there, they will be able to at least hold what is already happening.
Okay, at that point, we will take a break. Viewers will be right back after this short break.
We, from those encounters together, and this was a North-South game to open the season.
So the team might be playing well, as we always say with Trinidad and Tobago.
Futsal did that great for me.
Okay, hey everybody. Welcome to another edition of Field of Dreams on ACTN. My name is Steve David. I'm your host. Okay, welcome back, viewers. So, guys, this is what, let's forget about FIFA and TTFA for a second and talk about our young ballers who is sitting at home and can't get to do nothing. and we can't get to go out and play. I mean, of course, and we understand all the reason why. Let's see if we can come up with some solutions on how we can get these kids out of the house, on the field, you know, expanding their lungs and running and doing the things that they need to do instead of sitting behind the computer all the time, playing football on the computer and all of that stuff. Because these are the kids that we all worried about and wondering whether we're going to lose. We already were so bad lately as a footballing nation, and now we have to go through this. Well, the whole world has to go through this, but we want to, can we talk about some solutions as to how we can get these kids out of the house on the field, if it's 5, 10, 11, or do we have to depend on our Prime Minister to open up the requirements so they can get out there? What do you guys think?
It has to do with what people's ambition are as footballers. I mean, on a personal level, if I was still active during this COVID time, I would do whatever was necessary within the rules of the protocol to ensure I kept my fitness level up to as best as possible, thinking positively that there would be some change in the protocol where it would be opened up. So that would be my vision and my goal. Thinking, okay, if tomorrow they lift the ban, I want to be in such a physical condition that I wouldn't be struggling to get fit. Unfortunately, having just said what I just said there, I'm not too sure how many of our local players have that mindset. And I'm saying that based on what I have seen in terms of the ambition of local football. I mean, I have 2 fields where I live. And at no point in time, those 2 fields are populated together by tons of young fellas. And that is in normal times. We have all levels and degrees of footballers in my area. The so-called young, the club player, the professional player, the national player. The only time I would see huge numbers on the field, and that's not, when I say huge, the largest number would be the category considered to be young, playing small ball. And that is in good times. You know, so it has to be a personal something, because the government protocol has made it illegal for you to gather in numbers. But I am a professional footballer, my trade is football. I still could go on that field and do my stuff. Why can't I? Why don't I? Should be really the question. And I see it as somebody who just doesn't have that personal pride and that self-motivation. I am somebody who always believe motivation is personal. I don't ever believe motivation is external. I feel anything that is external is incentive. Motivation has to be internal. Because if you wait on an incentive, you may never leave where you are sitting.
Right.
So it means then that even though rain falling, I'm so self-motivated, I will still go out and do whatever I have to do. If snow falling, if it's nobody else but me, if I have no ball, but I'm so self-motivated and I know where I want to get at, I will go and do my work. So even in this lockdown here, I would assume if these local footballers are so interested in their trade and wanting to better themselves, wanting to be the best that they are, they would do what the government is allowing them to do to that limit. So that at least they could still get themselves up to some level of fitness and competence. And even if you wasn't playing football, just on a health level, just to remain healthy, it is beneficial for you. I still go out and do my thing as much as is possible because it is so in me now from all these years. I just had to do something, you know, and I still do it, and my mindset is always be thinking like if I'm still active, you know, I still want to be better, I still want to get good, I still want, because I just play my little fit match, and I have a personal pride in my performance. Plus, I have a huge respect for the game. So that even when I play my fit match, I just play my fit match with a certain mindset and mentality, you know. Because I have a huge respect for the game. And if I play in even fit match and I see people bringing the game into disrepute, I just tell them, right? Respect the game. Always respect the game. If I see people clunging around, even in a fit match, I just get pissed off because we have to respect that game. You understand? So for the local players, do whatever is possible within your individual realm to keep yourself active. You have to have the mindset and believe that tomorrow the Prime Minister go say, ban lifted and we can get back to normal sporting. That is when you go start to make a lap? No. Yeah. I don't believe that.
Yeah, you're correct. And I think with this, I think as Angus Eve said, we have two pandemics, you know. I mean, those in the football community. And the psychological aspect of one over the other. You have the COVID with the public health restrictions and so on. And then you have on your mind playing that, when am I going to be able to get back onto the field? And these would, again, in any sense, bring some sort of ingenuity out of us, because you have to know it's not a normal time. So as Larry is saying there, the mindset, again, is going to come into play here. And I do believe as coaches, we should be able to influence that, you know, in terms of encouraging players to work on their physical, physical preparation and so on. You may not be able to go out onto the field. You can work in small spaces doing your ball handling and, ball manipulation drills, strength and conditioning, working on your balance, working on your core, these type of things. Now, while you are inside as well, and a part of our game that is sadly lacking is also that cognitive aspect in terms of learning the game, learning the rules, learning how to apply different strategies, which you can do indoors, right? The coaching setup, we call it, blackboard work, right? And I think this is something that it's a period where if players use wisely, when we come out of it, obviously you're going to be able to see the benefits of it. I have my friend, her daughter is on the Canadian gymnast team, right? She's just about 9 years old. And during this period, they are doing their classes via Zoom, their gymnast classes. So they're in their living room and they're going through stretching routines and these type of things. So, I mean, we have to have a mindset that this period will not last forever, and we must be prepared so that whenever we are allowed to engage again, we are at least better off in some way.
So what's going to happen with Narada? What's going to happen with the tots and the teens who, I mean, they talk about the ones who already have some kind of game going, but the ones who has to develop. And we're going to lose generation of footballers. What's going to happen to these 8, 10-year-olds?
It is challenging. I think that age group more so because, they for themselves may actually want to go out and play, but the parents are going to, respect whatever restrictions are put in place. I think at some point, and this is just my personal view on certain things, I think because of football, one being an active contact sport, we have to find a way, just as we've found a way in some countries to continue with gyms happening, whether it's wearing the face shield, not using the same equipment immediately after, things like that. I think we have to create a way where these kids, from whether it be 6 to 10 to 12 years old, could still have some sort of resemblance of playing football, right? I think the actual game itself, them playing 11 on 11 or whatever, may not happen too soon. But I think, if we put our heads together, the powers that be, they can probably find a way to probably limit training sessions, whether it's down to just 10 kids, have them separated. They have their own balls. They're not going to do anything that is contact. Because I'm sitting there and I thought about it, and I said, you really just want the coach in the middle showing the kids those stretching exercises. They can all do it on their own. They're 7, they're 8. They could take instructions, You you want to be able to pass the ball to them, and you could correct them at a distance. They spread 6 feet apart, whatever the case is. The ball is returned. They're not necessarily exchanging the ball with other persons, or even if they are, it's just with the feet that has on a shoe. So you're probably not going to have that contact. I think the contact is what we really would have to eliminate, because we have so many kids from different backgrounds and areas coming together. But we have to probably find a way to get them onto the field, because slightly different to, just like my sister does dance, she does it virtually. Those are still static, movements where, they're stretching, they could hold for a position. You could see the teacher doing it. Football, if the guy crosses the ball wrong, it's very difficult for you to tell him without showing him, or probably, touching and showing him something. But just as Jeff said, I think the education is what would be able to close that little gap. And I've said it before on shows. I remember learning Football 1 in university, where they explained how to kick a ball, how to pass a ball, the proper pass, ball at a certain velocity, this height, received on the outside, the inside, this. When you get the theoretical part of that down, it's kind of easier for the kid now to actually put it into practice without you having to actually show him. So we're having a problem today because we've never really explained it a particular way to the kid. So if you have to tell a kid how to receive a ball, take it on the inside of your foot, whatever, he could do it. But you have to tell him. He has to probably see it in writing, just as in school. So we put that, get them to have that information. So when we go out on the field, the coach doesn't have to actually go grab his leg, fit it a particular way, and tell him how to get the ball. And I think we have to move from where we are today, just as Jeff and Larry alluded to. The kids would be on their own. Parents could probably buy balls, have them in the yard doing something, but then they have to come somewhere together, at least on low numbers, proper social distancing, sanitary practices as much as possible, and get them onto the field without contact. And then we could go from there, hopefully, in the future.
In football, they say practice make perfect. Football is one of the things, if you don't practice, physically do this, and it becomes second nature. You make that run or you fake. All that has to become second nature. Is just react. And if you're not doing it, we can't even move forward.
Well, unfortunately, we all have to make the adjustment to the time in which we're living in. But I am very confident that full contact sport will resume in some form or fashion, right? But I am confident because I take consolation from the fact that we are looking at football on the television now, which means it is quite possible, right? So I believe we are at some point in time in the future, going to get back to regular football games. Obviously, it is going to have some adjustments and whatever, but we are going to resume 11 on 11, and the academies will be up and running again with whatever protocols had to be looked at and things, but we are going to get back there. I am very confident it is going to happen.
I definitely hope so. I'm sitting thinking maybe they can play with. You can't play with that mask.
No, that's why.
So maybe you can play face shields. Right?
The problem is still, again, the contact with the face shields. Because, as I said, if it's the training, the distance is not a problem. You have the face shield, gets the ball, you could trap it.
How you head it.
That's the problem, right? So there are certain limitations that it can't put, the full game can't happen because of the game is radically changing. It's too fluid. So a ball comes in the air and he wants to head. But if you're in training, we're probably not going to do headers.
Exactly.
So there's a chance that, you could limit what the kid is doing. If you have a wall, you could hit the ball on the wall. The coach could watch from a distance and see how you're receiving it. So you don't have that exchange with a person, actually. But I think the contact sport, the game itself, 90 minutes,
no, but,
very difficult
I think,
at this moment.
What Steve is getting to is that even when we do begin to be engaged on the field, that would be a function of the coach, right? We keep the ball on the ground. We keep the ball on the ground. We have no tackles, something like that. So you can work on different things without, breaching those guidelines, right? And again, this session would have to be structured in such a way that we're working on particular things, probably shaping of the team, ball movement.
Correct.
these types of activities that doesn't include bodies coming together,
And again, we only allow 5 people. Is that that's what
in a working space.
You know, I mean, 5 people on the field is not.
Yeah.
The kids, especially with the kids. I'm sorry for the kids right now.
But I think for me, because they've been starved so long, or they're now getting into it, if we introduce them to just having 5 on the field, it's better than being home all day and not even going out on a field.
Right.
They will take the 5 for a while, maybe one day it goes to 10, and then they get the actual field. But at this moment, I think when you have 0, some resemblance of, the game is still better, and it's also better from a health aspect for them to be getting out,
So we should ask the Prime Minister to lift it to...
Yeah,
I think it's going to be 11th of
October.
I believe.
He's supposed
so
to.
we're not very far from there.
Yeah. And
Think so?
And I think, once parents, I think one of the big issues, at least with the kids, is whatever number is there. Once we could have parents equal in number, so you have 10 kids training, 10 parents present, to ensure that the parents assist the kids with abiding and respecting what the regulations are. Because a coach to control 10 kids by himself with no support to say, don't go to run to the friend, and that is going to be difficult. So I think they have to also be there at a distance, just to ensure that the training sessions or game goes along the right path.
But the parents has to be home when the kid comes. Stop right there by the door. Take your clothes off, put it in the basket.
It will take,
You stay on your underwear, go and shower under the pipe. Like we used to do back in the day. Clean yourself off, and then come in the house.
It will take a collective, responsibility of everyone to get us back there.
Everybody else.
That's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge. And I'm saying we can't overlook that. But again, it cannot be something that we look at and say that's too difficult. We're not going to do that. We have to now come up with, and maybe that will get us as coaches and football stakeholders thinking in that manner. We need to be planning ahead. We need to be able to organize ourselves to overcome whatever challenge is in front of us. And we've not done a good job of that. So, this is going to be sort of new for us.
All right, guys, to the public who supports FIFA, I don't know. You guys look at this holistically and see if we doing the wrong thing or we did the wrong thing. And I think we should have put our foot down when FIFA first suspended the United TTFA and tell them what they have to do and what they don't have to do. I think the support you're giving to FIFA now is what we should have given to the United TTFA up front. So I think we need to rethink this and give United TTFA as much support as you can. You guys, thank you guys for being here. As usual, appreciate you. Jeff needs to see you a little bit more, son.
Take off your dark.
All right. Viewers, thank you for tuning in. ACTN, thanks for the opportunity. We do have a Facebook page, guys, and we do have an email address, fieldofdreamtt@gmail.com. You can drop us a line. This show is ended. Go in peace. My name is Steve David. Good night.